Third house is not just about communication, it is also about perception. It is also about what you see, what you are able to see with your eyes. It reminds me of a beautiful story. There was a young man, and he was in search of a master, and he sets out to search for a real master. And on his way, he comes across an old man, and the old man is seated beneath a tree. He is in his own bliss, and the young man asks him, "Can you guide me? Can you tell me how can I find my master?" The old man smiles and tells him that you do one thing. You go straight and then you take a right, and then you continue with your journey. You will find a master. The young man thanks the old man and then follows the direction that he showed. And he goes straight, takes right, and he continues to search, but nothing happens. 20 years he spends, 20 years, but he is not able to find the real master. Dejected and depressed, he decides that it is time to go back home. And on his way back, he again comes across the same old man who has become more old. And he is seated under the same tree in his own bliss, meditating. And the young man, who is also no more young, suddenly remembers the dream that has been falling for many years. From last 20 years, a specific dream he has been seeing. And the dream was such that there was an old man seated beneath a tree. And now as he looked again at the old man, he realized that it is the same old man who has been coming in my dream for last 20 years. And he starts crying and he rushes towards the old man. He touches his feet and says, "You are my master." And the old man smiles and says, "So now you have realized." But the young man says that, "Why you didn't tell me when I met you for the first time?" And the master says, "Because you were not having those eyes. You were looking at me and asking for the master." The realization has to come from within you. It took 20 years for you to get those eyes, to realize that I am your master. The young man starts crying. He couldn't control his feelings. He says, "But all my 20 years have been wasted." The master says, "You are wrong. Those 20 years have not been wasted. In those 20 years, all the wrong men and women you came across made you realize that what is right and what is wrong. All the fake men and women that you came across during this last 20 years have given you a special insight, have given you an eyesight, that now you can recognize what is right and what is wrong. So those 20 years have not been wasted. Through those 20 years, you have evolved, you have matured, and that is how now you have got this eyesight through which you have recognized me." And it is said that the young man never left the master. He remained at his feet. He remained devoted to the master. Perception is what life is all about. When thoughts change, perception changes. This perception is your third house. Nobody is going to tell you this, but I am telling you. Third house is all about your perception. How you perceive a certain thing. At the first meeting, the young man was not able to perceive that this man, this old man, is my master. It took 20 years for that young man to realize that the man whom he had met at the first instance itself was his master. And look at the master. The master has been waiting beneath the same tree for so many years. That is how the love of the master is. The young man says that what if I would have not met you? What if you would have gone from here? And the old master says, where will I go? I am always here, waiting for you. The master is always waiting for you, my fellows. The real question is whether you are ready. When the student is ready, the master appears. When the disciple is ready, the master appears. It all depends on your readiness. It all depends on your perception. In this podcast, I will share more on Moon in third house. So let's begin. Say something. The native having moon in the third house simply loves to communicate. If you have a girlfriend having moon in the third house, then your phone will always remain busy because she will just keep talking and talking and talking. Well, that was on a lighter note, but the fact is that these natives just love to talk. And moreover, they have great interest in mastering the art of communication. Moon is a restless entity, and third house is also a restless house. The end result is obvious. The native always is restless and needs constant change in his or her environment. And that makes them travel a lot. They just love to travel because that gives them the change that they seek. If the third house lord is strong and well placed, then there is a possibility that the native may have a sibling and there is much attachment with the sibling. These natives also take great interest in their neighbors. They have a certain expectation when it comes to their neighborhood. In the US, the status of the person is evaluated based on the neighborhood or locality in which he or she lives. I suppose the same trend is also seen nowadays in most countries. And a third house moon native is very particular in selecting a locality that reflects his or her social status. Because everything has to be communicated, conveyed, and the message has to be very loud and clear. And so these natives just love to flaunt all that they have. They are good at flaunting their assets. Many times lovers communicate with each other through a sword fight. They fight passionately and then they make love passionately too. The third house is therefore connected with sex, as it is a part of the Kama Trikona, meaning the sexual triangle. Reminds me of that beautiful sword fight scene between two lovers shot in the movie Mask of Zorro. Love is communicated or expressed through the sword fight that happens between the hero and the heroine of the movie. So you see, even through a fight, through a quarrel, through a sword fight,
love can be expressed so beautifully. Expression is what these natives like, and because they are good at expressing themselves, they appear more alive, more lively, and more beautiful. Because expression is life, repression is suicide. Always remember, the more you go through self transformation, the more you will express yourself. Why is it that a man suppresses so much and becomes unhealthy? Because the society teaches you to control, not to transform. In controlling, you repress, and in transformation, you express. Third house is exactly 8th from the 8th house. If you count from the 8th house of your chart, then the third house becomes the 8th house. And 8th house is all about self transformation, whereas third house, being 8th from 8th house, is the house through which you express yourself. In simple words, if 8th house in your chart is powerful, then through the power of your third house moon, you will be able to express the wisdom that you have attained through self transformation. Third house, 7th house, and 11th house are extrovert house. Meaning, whenever moon is in 3rd, 7th, or 11th house, the person is extrovert by nature. He or she likes to talk, likes to have a good social life. They are those men and women who are very good in social networking, and many popular men and women on social platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube have either the moon in the 3rd, 7th, or 11th house, and they just know how to host a good show. Third house is a highly sexual house. In fact, the sign Gemini is itself a highly sexual sign. And since third house comes under the influence of Gemini, and on top of that, third house is a Kama Trikona house, meaning a house that is a part of the sexual triangle houses. And so moon in third house does makes the man or woman highly sexual by nature. Now it depends on the third house lord. If the third house lord is strong, then sexual desire is intense and is also fulfilled as the person grows by age. So what it means is that you may not get sexual pleasures in the early years of your life, but as you grow, you will start encountering many sexual relationships and thereby enjoy the pleasures of sex. Third house is like a gas stove which is on low flame. Slowly, in installments, you progress in life. As the great master Lahari Mahasay used to say, Banat Banat Ban Jaye. Meaning, with a small percentage of progress each day, you will one day become an expert in your field of profession. A little progress each day adds up to big results. That is what third house moon is all about. A little progress each day adds up to big results. And so the man or woman having third house moon should learn to be patient. Otherwise, depression and frustration will engulf your life. Third house is your perception. Evolved souls having moon in third house at some stage of life realize the power of perspective. Always remember, it's not what you look at that what matters. It's what you see. A shallow man may simply whine or make a lot of noise because he is going through a bad phase of life. Whereas A conscious person will simply perceive the tough times of his life as a phase of learning, growing, and evolving into a much evolved person. A wise man had said that when you are going through challenging times of life, it is necessary that you change your perspective towards life. When you maintain a positive perspective, life slowly starts becoming more and more positive for you. Life is all about perspective. Your perspective will either become your prison or your passport. It all depends on what perspective you have towards a given situation and towards life in general. Throughout life, all your major decisions of life are based on your perspective. Even when you fall in love with a woman or a man, it is primarily based on your perspective, because you perceive him or her as the right person who reflects your inner being. Yesterday, Mohan asked, "What is the meaning of love?" The meaning of love is very simple. When somebody on the outside fits with your inner image, you fall in love. That is the meaning of love. Since third house determines your changing perspective, it becomes significant in all decisions of life that you make. A weak third house will give you a perspective through which you will make many wrong decisions of life. Whereas a strong third house moon placement and a well placed third house lord will give you a perspective through which you will make the right decisions of life. A positive third house moon placement provides a perfect sense of timing to the native. The native understands very well on when to say what. He or she waits for the right timing and right words to achieve their goal. That reminds me of a story. Two disciples of a great master were walking in the garden of the master's house. They were allowed to walk every day, morning and evening. The walking was a kind of meditation, a walking meditation, just as Zen people do walking meditation. You cannot sit for 24 hours. The legs need a little movement. The blood needs a little circulation. So in Zen and in Sufism both, you meditate for a few hours sitting and then you start meditating walking. But the meditation continues, walking or sitting. The inner current remains the same. They both were smokers. They both wanted to ask for the permission of the master. So they both decided, tomorrow, at the most, he will say no, but we are going to ask. And it doesn't seem such a bad act to smoke in the garden. We will not be smoking in his house itself. And so the next day they met in the garden. One was furious because the other was smoking. And he said, "What happened? I also asked, but he simply flatly refused and said no. And you are smoking? Are you not abiding by his orders?" He said, "But he said yes to me." This looked very unjust. And the first man said, "I will go and immediately inquire as to why he said no to me and yes to you." The other man said, Wait a minute. Please tell me what you had asked." He said, "What I had asked? I had asked a simple thing. Can I smoke while meditating?" And he said no. And he looked very angry. The other started laughing and he said, "Now I know what is the matter. I asked, can I meditate while smoking? And he said yes." It all depends. Just a little difference and life is totally something else. Now there is a great difference. Asking, can I smoke while meditating, is just ugly. But asking, can I meditate while smoking? It's perfectly okay. Good, at least you will be meditating. Third house moon gives this brilliance of asking the right question in the right way and at the right moment. Moon in third house is a great communicator. And in case of evolved souls, this placement also signify God's messengers. The sole purpose of their life is to motivate and guide people and help them realize the significance of self-realization. Eckhart Tolle, a great spiritual mystic, also has this placement. His moon is in the third house. Here is a quick look at Eckhart Tolle's birth chart. Eckhart Tolle has a moon with Rahu in third house. Since the distance between moon and Rahu is beyond 10 degrees, there is no conjunction between them. Lord of Moon's nakshatra is placed in the ninth house of wisdom. And Aries moon sign Lord Mars is also strong in Leo, though retrograde. Eckhart was working as a language teacher. He was teaching German and Spanish for 3 years at a London language school. However, one night in 1977, at the age of 29, after long periods of depression, Tolle says he experienced an inner transformation. And when he woke up, he began to feel an underlying sense of peace in any situation. He stopped studying for his doctorate, and for a period of about 2 years, he spent much of his time sitting in a state of deep bliss on park benches in central London, watching the world go by. He stayed with friends in a Buddhist monastery, or he slept on the streets. His family thought that he is mad. Later, he changed his first name from Ulrich to Eckhart. By some reports, this was in homage to the German philosopher and mystic Mr. Eckhart. Slowly he rose to great fame with many best-selling books and webinars to his name. Writing, sharing, communicating comes very naturally to a man having moon in third house. Multi-millionaire American investor Warren Buffett also has moon in third house. He is considered one of the most successful investors in the world, making him the world's 10th wealthiest person. The story of Warren Buffett is very interesting. From school days as a boy, he was always interested to become a stockbroker. On his senior school yearbook, he had pasted a picture with a line that says, "Likes math, a future stockbroker." To become a successful stockbroker, you need to make informed decisions. Third house moon is a perfect placement to make informed decisions, provided the third house lord is well placed and well aspected in the birth chart. A quick look at Warren Buffett's birth chart. As you can see, Warren Buffett's moon is placed in the third house in Scorpio sign, Anuradha nakshatra, whereas the lord of third house, that is Mars, is placed in the 10th house, thus giving strength to moon placed in third house. Any planet in the Kendra house, that is in the center house, in 1, 4, 7 or 10th house, attains strength. The following quote of Warren Buffett reflects the essence of the third house moon placement. He quotes, "Develop communication skills. You have got to be able to write well, and you have got to be able to talk well, and just fill your head. It is such a wonderful time in life to have every day end up with you knowing a lot of things that you didn't know the day before. As mentioned earlier, third house is all about communication, perception, gathering information, ideology, and intellectualism. Whenever moon is placed in the third house or seventh house or 11th house, the native is found to be highly intellectual being. An intellectual being is good in applying logic. Warren Buffett is one good example of an intellectual being. He quotes, "You will continue to suffer if you have an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you." I repeat these lines again. You will continue to suffer if you have an emotional reaction to everything that is said to you. True power is sitting back and observing things with logic. True power is restraint. If words control you, that means everything else can control you. Breathe and allow things to pass. Third house moon has the potential to bring wisdom to you. Many wise men and women have moon in the third house. Famous Hollywood actress Meryl Streep is also born with moon in third house. A quick look into Meryl Streep's birth chart. As you can see, her moon is in Kritika Nakshatra in third house, and sun is in the fifth house of drama and stage performance. Mars, the third house lord, which is also the moon sign lord, is in the fourth house in Kendra. A Kendra position makes Mars strong, and thus third house moon becomes positive in all aspects. Always remember, third house lord and moon's nakshatra lord both should be well placed in the birth chart. The placement of moon in Kritika Nakshatra makes one an individual, one who loves to live by being yourself. One significant quote of Meryl Streep is, "The formula of happiness and success is just being actually yourself in the most vivid possible way you can." Meryl Streep has been known for playing strong woman character roles in movies. A woman born with moon in Kritika Nakshatra is indeed a strong woman. She can fight against all odds and emerge victorious in life. This moon placement is excellent for those who aspire to become great communicators, great actors, speakers, messengers, print media journalists, announcers, and travel agents. Mother of such natives is also very intellectual, and just like the native, the mother too loves to travel and likes to read and likes to have a constant change in environment. The famous American singer, songwriter, and actress Madonna also has this placement. A quick look at Madonna's birth chart. As you can see, her moon is placed in the third house, Leo sign, in the Venusian Purva Falguni Nakshatra. Sun and Venus, Sun being the lord of third house and sign lord as well as Venus being the nakshatra lord, both are well placed in the second house. Madonna became a world famous singer. The fifth house, Rahu, Jupiter, Neptune gives great artistic talent and the courage to perform on stage. The great poet and Nobel Prize winner Rabindranath Tagore also has moon in third house. In fact, his moon is in my favorite zodiac sign. It is in Pisces, and it is in conjunction with Neptune, the mystic planet. Here is a look at his birth chart. As you can see, his moon is placed in the third house, and third house lord Jupiter is exalted in Cancer in seventh house. And Jupiter also has its ninth aspect on his moon, a very strong placement and aspect indeed. Rabindranath Tagore's poems are deeply touching. One of his poems is so beautiful that I must mention it. It is a beautiful poem. The poem begins with a man searching for God for millions of lives. He has seen him sometimes far away near a star, and he started moving that way. But by the time he reached that star, God has moved to some other place. But he went on searching and searching. He was determined to find God's home. And the surprise of surprises was, one day he actually reached a house where on the door was written, God's home. You can understand his ecstasy. You can understand his joy. He runs up the steps, and just as he is going to knock on the door, suddenly his hand freezes. An idea arises in him. If by chance this is really the home of God, then I am finished. My seeking is finished. I have become identified with my seeking, with my search. I don't know anything else. If the door opens and I face God, I am finished. The search is over. Then what? Then there is an eternity of boredom. No excitement, no discovery, no new challenge, because there cannot be any challenge greater than God. He starts trembling with fear, takes his shoes off his feet, and descends back down the beautiful marble steps. He took the shoes off so that no noise was made, for his fear was that even a noise on the steps, God may open the door, although he has not knocked. And then he runs as fast as he can. He runs as fast as he has never run before. He used to think that he had been running after God as fast as he can. But today, suddenly, he finds energy which was never available to him before. He runs as he has never run, not looking back. The poem ends. I am still searching for God. I know his home, so I avoid it and search everywhere else. The excitement is great. The challenge is great. And in my search I continue to exist. God is a danger. I will be annihilated. But now I am not afraid even of God, because I know his home. So leaving his home aside, I go on searching for him all around the universe. And deep down, I know my search is not for God. My search is to nourish my ego. What a beautiful poem, with such a depth to it. Many spiritual seekers are in rush to experience God. They are in rush to reach the destination, just the way this man was. However, then he realized that the real joy is not in reaching the destination. The real joy is in enjoying the journey of searching for God. So beautiful, very deep. And so with this beautiful note, I would now like to end by saying that third house moon is indeed a beautiful placement. A placement that can become a great medium for God to share the divine messages, the unique talent, the unique idea that adds to making this world a much better place to live. You should always remember that life is not made of great things. It is made of very small things. In the morning, sipping a cup of tea, do it totally as if this is the last cup of tea you will ever sip again. Third house moon is all about making you realize that it is in your interest to live your life by living in the present moment, by bringing the mind to the now moment, by being here and now. Now is where love breathes, says Rumi. If you want to experience love, if you want to experience God, if you want to experience joy within, then learn to be here now. Be here now. Now is the only moment. Life is flowing in the now moment, in the present moment. If you are able to be here now, you will be able to progress in life. The key is to be here now. Meditate. Jai Sri Ganesha. Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.